chatting with you here today. So pay close attention. Hopefully you're as excited as I am. I'm going to be sharing something very different than what is typical. If this is your first time connecting to Luna Fires, just know that, usually we, share daily experiences, epiphany moments, moments of illumination that we get to share so that you can continue to grow in life. All right. So Instagram, welcome. YouTube, Facebook, welcome. And what I'm going to share with you is the, ABCs of real estate. Okay. 3 steps that are crucial, that are important if you're, beginning in real estate or looking to get your feet wet into real estate, or you're exploring on how is it, that you should, or what is it that you should be paying attention if you're starting to, explore the real estate investing world. All right. So, for the ones that don't know me, Raul Luna here from Modesto, California. And the very first thing that I'm going to tell you, especially because, I've been doing real estate investing for almost, actually 2 decades now. It's been 2 decades. And I can tell you that from the roller coaster on my very first 10 years, it was, learning experiences, nasty mistakes. I mean, you name it. So the second decade has been a phenomenal ride. It has been a journey of, nevertheless, challenges, but growth challenges, challenges that anyone is going to have to, endure, and is going to have to obviously grow from them if you really want to do this, in a successful way. But, what we're going to do is we're going to do step number 1 is learn to buy real estate right. Make sure that you buy it right. That's the very first thing that I would share with you. Make sure, starting as an ABCs in real estate, A is make sure that you buy it right. And what I mean by buying it right, this is what I mean. I mean by, knowing how to identify properties, knowing, how to evaluate them, knowing how to submit the offers, and, how to follow up, how to negotiate, articulate, communicate. But buying it right, it's important to understand because we use a very specific formula. And, buying it right means knowing more than just a formula and knowing many different factors. And let me tell you why, and why it's so critical to buy properties right, or to understanding and, learning to buying real estate right. Because you don't want to be caught in a situation where, the market is coming down, and therefore the formula, you don't want to make the formula to be, the only thing that you go about it. So, step number 1, or A, in the real estate investing world, is learning to buying it right, meaning make sure that you don't overpay for the property. Make sure that you have your profit built in, the remodel or the renovation that you're going to do, making sure that you stay disciplined on, what type of profit, what type of percentage in profit wise do you want to see in your investments. And I'm going to give you an example. There's markets where I can, invest at, let's just say 80% of the ARV after repair value. And then there's situations in markets where, 70% is my norm of the, ARV after repaired value. So, you got to come up with what you believe that you want to stick with. So buying it right, it's important to know, that you have your profit built in, because, if you don't, you'll quickly understand, at the time that you're trying to sell it and you don't obviously realize a profit, you immediately gonna understand how importantly was to buy it right. So to buy it right, once again, learning to identify, learning to evaluate, learning to, submit offers, from following up and negotiating, communicating, staying disciplined basically on a particular, profit range, profit percentage, or things of that nature. Okay. So, and knowing when to, when can you go up and when you shouldn't be going up, depending on what, it's happening in the external world. And that's going to take me to the B of the real estate, the B side of the real estate investing world. And the B is, learning and knowing your market, learning consistently and knowing your market. And what I mean by that, you need to know your location. You need to know if this property is in high demand or low demand. You need to know, what's the crime rate in that location, or that, community. You need to know if it has great schools, if it's bad schools, okay schools. I mean, you got to know your market. And the reason I can tell you this, especially today, is more, it's always been important, but it gets magnified today when we're in turbulence, when we're in the middle of a pandemic, where there's being exodus, people moving from metro areas into, suburban areas, and understanding those factors, understanding is that community on demand, or is that specific type of property on demand, or if it's low demand, and why there's low demand or why there is high demand. So knowing your market is extremely, extremely important, right? And then last but not least is the C part of the real estate investing. And the C is knowing your exit strategy. Knowing your exit strategy, it's knowing who your buyer is, understanding really, really well who your buyer is. For instance, if you're buying an entry-level home that you're going to flip, that you're going to, turn, who's your end buyer? Is your end buyer a level entry first-time home buyer? Or is it a more affluent? Or is it a person that, has to have a high level paying job or high level executive? So you need to know, the outcome of your exit. You need to know your buyer. You need to know what strategy you're going to use to exit out of that property. And guess what? It all boils down to the root. If you can go back to the root, which is step number one, which is, learning to buying it right. That's the root. If you do that thing right, everything else is going to obviously, in order to do that right, you're going to need to know about the market, of course. And and if you bought it right, the exit strategy becomes heck of a lot more easier. But nevertheless, you still need to know who your end buyer is and what exit strategy you're going to use. If you're going to end up remodeling the property and then reselling it to a retail buyer, or if you're going to just basically buy the property and just clean it up and just resell it the same way, or you're just looking to buy it, keep it for a few years, rent it, and then resell it. So that's what I mean by exit strategy. But nevertheless, whoever knows who their end buyer is, and you have an avatar of exactly what that looks like, I can tell you, you have a broader, greater probability of a successful exit more than anyone else. So hopefully, you got the picture. This was the ABCs of real estate. A, buy it right. B, know your market. C, you better know your exit strategy and your end buyer. All right. So if you like what you heard, go ahead and, give me a like, leave me a message. Don't forget to subscribe, turn on the notification button so that you get notified, and go ahead and share this video with others. All right. I'll send you a virtual hug. And always remember that if you want to continue learning about real estate and you want Master Ninja tips, you can get them directly at RaulLunaAcademy.com. All right. RaulLunaAcademy.com. And I can give you some free, obviously, sessions there. And remember, you're one freaking real estate deal away from changing your financial landscape. Get to see you next time. Thank you.